Hello friends, let's continue to observe what's happening in sunny Poland. And there are a lot of different events happening there. The news cycle is packed, to say the least. Incidents on the roads, latent crime, complex international incidents, and in general, we're just watching what's going on. Now we'll analyze the key events that have shaken Polish society. What a mess. And we'll analyze everything. Please give a like and subscribe to the channel. Friends, huge thanks to everyone who doesn't mind. Simple actions take just 2 seconds. Thank you for your support. Yes, and I'd like to support aerodynamics. Now let's move on. The first topic is a real shocker. Medical confidentiality per Rzeszów. Discovery of hazardous waste and remains. If we start right away like this, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. The story unfolded in the Subcarpathian Voivodeship and attracted the attention not only of regional but also of national mass media. During earthworks related to preparing the foundation for new residential buildings in the vicinity of Rzeszów, the construction crew discovered items hidden in the ground, to put it mildly. Yes. Investigation teams, forensic experts, and representatives of the prosecutor's office arrived at the scene immediately. During extensive excavations on the plot, which had recently changed ownership, a total of 32 human fetuses were exhumed. They were found in plastic bags. Friends, 32 human fetuses. The investigative authorities have quickly identified the previous owner of the land plot. It turned out to be Ms. Magdalena Ha, a 57-year-old woman, a certified pathologist who previously worked at one of the local state hospitals and also had an active private medical practice. According to the investigators' preliminary theory, yes, it hasn't been officially announced yet, but the woman may have taken biological materials out of the medical facility during the pandemic. Remember COVID-19? When was that? My God, nobody remembers anymore. So, why did she need this? To conduct further research or analysis in a home lab. After the procedures were completed, the materials were not disposed of according to strict sanitary regulations, but were buried on private property. Well, this is of course quite a philosophical question, right? Did she really just take her work home, right? And then, well, whatever, just bury it in her own backyard. What's the difference? During the arrest, the suspect experienced a sharp deterioration in her health, lost consciousness, and of course, she was taken to the hospital. Right now, she's under 24-hour police supervision. At this stage, the prosecutor's office hasn't found any evidence indicating illegal abortions. Well, how could they, after all these years have passed, right? The investigation is being conducted under 2 main articles of the Polish Criminal Code: desecration of corpses or remains, that's Article 262. The punishment is imprisonment for up to 2 years. And illegal placement and storage of hazardous waste, which poses a threat to human life and health and to the environment, Article 181. Well, and there the sanctions provide for up to 12 years of imprisonment. That is for desecration of a corpse, right? 2 years. But illegal placement of hazardous waste is up to 12. Interesting. All right, write your versions in the comments and we'll move on. So, next we have a high-profile event, an act of open street aggression, and not somewhere far away, right? In some village, as the Poles say, yeah, in the capital. And it quickly turned into a matter of public and legal debate, as it often does. Near the Gdańsk railway station in Warsaw, there was a conflict between a driver and another driver, as a result of which a 30-year-old citizen of Azerbaijan, Mr. Naiv, was injured. The man is legally residing in the Republic of Poland. For 4 years, he has been officially employed in Poland in the passenger transportation sector, that is, as a taxi driver. He pays taxes diligently, even though he could just live off social benefits and do nothing. So basically, a situation on the road led to one of the drivers, a Polish citizen, stopping his Volkswagen Passat, taking a telescopic metal baton out of the trunk, and hit Naib multiple times on the head before fleeing. The victim was hospitalized and received stitches. But a medical examination showed that the bones of the skull were not damaged. However, the man, understandably, is suffering from severe psychological shock. I mean, when you get hit on the head, well, I've never been hit on the head myself, but I suspect it's very unpleasant, and in this case he was beaten with a telescopic baton. The initial reaction of law enforcement agencies attracted particular public attention. Despite the fact that the attacker's license plate number was known, I mean, I have everything recorded, the police classified the injuries as not life-threatening. Oh Lord, just put a plantain leaf on it and you'll be fine. So, according to Polish procedural law, this often moves the case into the category of a private prosecution. This means that the victim has to file a civil lawsuit in court on their own. So, I'm just curious, if a Ukrainian beat up a Pole on the street in broad daylight with a telescopic baton, I think 48 hours would be the maximum and he would be deported. But here, oh God, well, go ahead and file a lawsuit. What happened? You just made up a problem for yourself. Yes. However, due to public outcry and a possible motive of ethnic hatred, lawyers from a major international human rights organization defended the taxi driver's rights for free during the investigation. So, they insist on reclassifying the case under the article about hooliganism or assault with a dangerous weapon. This requires the prosecutor's office to conduct the investigation as a matter of public prosecution. Well, apparently, by the way, the Polish man realized himself what he had done and came to turn himself in. Let's see what happens next. So friends, next we have a series of events on public transport and the highway. Yes, this one involves fatalities. The incident on Warsaw bus 167 happened last week. Yes, the pre-trial investigation into the death of a 58-year-old passenger on the city bus has already been completed. The accident occurred there. I don't think there's been one in Warsaw for a long time, especially at Pulawska and Goworka. In short, the driver of the vehicle braked very sharply. He was trying to avoid a collision but braked suddenly. Well, and the woman who was in the cabin couldn't hold on to the handrails, fell and hit her head hard. So hard, in fact, that her heart stopped instantly. Both the driver and passengers were in shock. Medics began performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation as best they could, until the ambulance arrived. Medics revived her heartbeat, but sadly she died the next day in intensive care. The prosecutor's office and transportation experts are studying the footage from the onboard cameras to assess the legality of the driver's actions. It's a very sad incident, of course, yes. You can keep track of your cholesterol, cross the street at a red light, but as you can see, well, that's the fatalist in me talking again, no one knows really where your last second or minute will begin. So what else? A car accident happened in Bordeaux. It's an interesting name, not to be confused with Bordeaux, France. There it's spelled with an O, but here it's Bordeaux. I should learn why the city got its name. It's in the remote Lower Silesian voivodeship, where fatal accidents have occurred. The driver of a Toyota, for unknown reasons, lost control of the vehicle. They say Toyotas don't break down. He drove onto the pedestrian crossing at high speed and pinned two passers-by against a stone wall. The victims of the accident are a 48-year-old man and his 9-year-old son Nathan, who had just come to this city for a tour from Nysa. Both died. A very sad event, well, from the injuries they received. The toxicology report showed that the driver was sober, and during questioning the man stated that he had completely erased the moment of the accident from his memory because he lost consciousness. The prosecutor's office has already charged him with causing a fatal traffic accident and has filed a motion with the court to have him held in custody as a preventive measure. At the same time, a comprehensive forensic medical examination has been ordered to investigate the possibility that the driver suffered a sudden stroke or heart attack. Well, it's sad, really sad, of course. They're so young, especially the boy, yes, just 9 years old and in school. Alright, let's lighten up this sad episode a bit. Well, a Polish guy also made the news. Not like this, though. The German Autobahn A9. It's interesting how Polish media reported that the Polish transport company's budget suffered because of the passengers' unlawful actions. The crew of an unmarked German highway patrol car noticed a commercial minibus with Polish plates that had been driving in the middle lane for a long time, even though the right lane was clear, which is, in fact, a traffic violation in Germany. Well, it's a bit strange to me, but okay, those are their rules. I'm not criticizing, even though I don't plan to live in Germany. After the police car overtook, the minibus driver thought, "What do you think you're doing? This is basically Poland. It's for Poles here." So he says, "I'll overtake you now." He began to overtake, but then chose to race. At that moment, one of the minibus passengers, who was, as you can imagine, with a blood alcohol level of 1.5 promille, showed the police an offensive gesture. He gave them the middle finger. Apparently, out of sheer genius and patriotism, the German law enforcement officers, despite the language barrier, understood that he was being unfriendly toward them. They stopped the vehicle at the nearest parking lot and opened a case against the passenger for insulting public officials. And in Germany, this is punishable by heavy fines proportional to income or even imprisonment for up to 1 year. The minibus driver, despite being completely sober, was also punished. So, in an attempt, well, in short, they charged him with significantly exceeding the speed limit while trying to overtake more quickly after his companion's gesture. And for that, he got a €320 fine and penalty points. Well, friends, I always say, be polite. At least try a little harder than your usual self. Politeness costs nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's completely free. So look, we have another piece of news, and I saved the craziest one for last, right? The arrest of a serial offender in Szczecin. This is one of the most significant successes of the Polish criminal police in recent times, the arrest of a dangerous serial criminal who committed all sorts of bad things in several voivodeships of the country. The events unfolded roughly as follows. In May, in Citadel Park in the city of Poznań, a young woman was attacked. The criminal stalked the victim on the tram, followed her to a deserted place, and committed, well, let's say, an unpleasant, violent act of a sexual nature. For a long time, investigators were unable to identify the person, so a composite sketch was published, and already in June, the perpetrator moved to Szczecin. This is the West Pomeranian voivodeship, where he sexually harassed women on a bus in a single day. And then, well, honestly, that's why I left it for last, yeah. And then he lured a 10-year-old boy into a public restroom where he did something bad to the child. That's really tough, of course. To catch the criminal, the Szczecin police headquarters launched an emergency operation with 100 criminal investigation officers and patrol services. Well, and the suspect was detained at night at one of the bus stops. Yes, where he was trying to talk to his next potential victim. Interestingly, the detainee turned out to be a 48-year-old Turkish citizen, Hüseyin A. The identified man was legally staying in the European Union, living in Berlin, and came to Poland for work. Well, and apparently not only for short business trips, but also for his hobby. In general, he was involved in delivering confectionery products, all kinds of baklava, to various food service establishments. During the official interrogation with a translator and lawyer present, Hüseyin refused to admit guilt or cooperate with investigators. However, the prosecution has evidence. Yes, what evidence do you have, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said in the movie Red Heat? All the victims and witnesses unequivocally identified the man during the official identification procedure, and the DNA test results confirmed his involvement. Yeah, well, there's no way to get out of it now. Considering the severity of the crime and its serial nature, well, the police command sent requests to all regional departments for verification. Let's figure it out. Maybe this handsome guy did something in your area too. Let's look at all similar unsolved cases. The court realized that, well, the case wasn't obviously a frame-up, everything seemed okay. In short, they said, that's it, he'll serve time. What does he face for something like that? Under Polish law, he could get a life sentence. Well, here, of course, you could... No, okay, I won't say something like that. So, the taxi driver I ride with says, as a dark joke, that the guy was really unlucky. If he were Ukrainian, he would have just been deported. But now he'll get a life sentence. Of course, all of this is just jokes, and honestly not funny at all, friends. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Leave likes, write comments, tell me which city you're watching from. It's important. Friends, that's all for now. See you next time. Yeah, come on, you already know that TransferGo is the best money transfer service. The link is in the description.